What happened before and after a train slammed into a patrol car with a woman inside is pretty shocking. New video shows the lack of awareness from officers on scene. An updated autopsy sheds light on Elijah McLean's death and may give the officers charged a defense in their case. We're going to hear the word extreme thrown around a lot this election cycle, so tonight we put a new ad to one of Colorado's most closely watched races to the truth test. This week, we can help teachers and students in rural Colorado make their schools a better place. This Friday's good news leaves us waiting for happy reunions.
Es una fiesta cuando llegamos nosotros. Es muy emocionante.
So let's spread more good, because this is next. We knew it was an example of police negligence. New video showing a train hitting a patrol car with a woman inside just shows just how bad this was. The officer who put a woman in the back of a patrol car parked across train tracks appears to have forgotten that the woman was inside the car until after the train hit. We got a few different views of that call today. We're going to show you some of that body camera video. We want to warn you it may be difficult to watch. This happened a week ago today. The woman inside the car survived, but with some serious injuries. It's 7:49 p.m. A Fort Lupton police officer pulls up to a traffic stop. We see a Platteville car parked across the tracks. The officers order 20-year-old Yoreni Rios Gonzalez out of her truck at gunpoint. She was a suspect in a road rage case. The female Fort Lupton officer puts her in cuffs, loads her into the back of that Platteville officer's car. It's 7:52. Another Fort Lupton officer joins, and the three officers search Rios Gonzalez's truck. Then, a little less than 2 minutes later, at 7:54, the seemingly inevitable happens.
Trauma check. Oh.
20 seconds after the train hits the Platteville car, the Platteville officer runs to the Fort Lupton officer who arrested Rios Gonzalez.
Was she in there? Was she in there? Was she in there?
Oh my God, yes she was!
The trio then starts running down the tracks.
This was preventable. It shouldn't have happened.
Eventually, those officers get to the shell of the Platteville patrol car with Rios Gonzalez inside, somehow alive, with 9 broken ribs, a broken arm, a fractured sternum, numerous injuries to her head, legs, and back. 9 News legal analyst Whitney Traylor says she will have a hefty civil lawsuit against those officers.
This isn't an issue of training. This is beyond negligent. This is beyond even what I would consider gross negligence, which is a higher level of negligence. This is just complete, utter recklessness.
Mother.
Oh my God.
Let's go over there.
At last check, the Platteville police officer who parked his car on the tracks was on paid administrative leave. No word on the Fort Lupton officer who made that arrest. Meantime, CBI is investigating. Well, it was the ketamine that killed Elijah McLean, not the hold or injuries from police. That's the finding of a new amended autopsy on the young man who died after police stopped him for doing nothing wrong. The new report lists McLean's cause of death as complications of ketamine administration following forcible restraint. The previous report from 2019 said the cause of death was undetermined. Police stopped McLean 3 years ago as he was heading home. They put him in a carotid hold and paramedics gave him ketamine. The Adams County coroner says new testimony and video led to the changes in this autopsy report last year. The new report says McLean received a higher than recommended dose that ended in an overdose, and that he would still be alive if it wasn't for the ketamine. The coroner says it's unlikely the carotid hold killed McLean. How this plays out in court for the 3 officers and 2 paramedics remains to be seen. They are all facing charges in McLean's death. The new report seems to point the finger at paramedics.
It certainly helps the officers far more than it helps the paramedics, who, after all, are the individuals who administered the ketamine and decided the dose.
Notably, the coroner did not change McLean's manner of death. That can sometimes be classified as homicide or accident. Both autopsy reports say McLean's manner of death is undetermined. Political ads paid for by outside groups tend to have one goal: paint the candidate they oppose in the worst way possible. In Colorado's new Congressional District number 8, there are competing ads attacking Democratic candidate Yadira Caraveo and Republican candidate Barbara Kirkmeyer. Yesterday, we truth-tested the Caraveo attack ad, and tonight, politics guy Marshall Zellinger checks out the anti-Kirkmeyer ad paid for by the D.C.-based Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Kirkmeyer said gay marriage should be illegal in Colorado.
This is close, but a little bit twisty, kind of like how those people just tornadoed out of the video. Republican candidate Barb Kirkmeyer most recently was asked about same-sex marriage in an interview in July on Fox 31.
But I believe that people should go to their religion and go to their faith and whatever happens within their faith and follow that.
Previously, Kirkmeyer answered candidate questionnaires in 2014 and 2020. Kirkmeyer chose strongly agree on the question, marriage is a union of one man and one woman. No government has the authority to alter this definition. She chose agree when asked governments should define marriage as between one man and one woman. But at the end of one of the questionnaires, she also wrote, I believe marriage should be defined by the church, not government.
She denies the science of climate change and wants to eliminate protections that keep our air and water clean.
On climate change? Kinda. Just before the primary in June, the Colorado Sun interviewed all 4 Republicans running for CD8. The question was, do you believe climate change is human-caused? Kirkmeyer said, the Earth has been gradually warming since the Little Ice Age. To what extent any warming is a result of man-caused activity is unknown. The part about eliminating protections that keep our air and water clean, what Bitmoji do I have for that? That's muddy. The claim is based on what she said at this Republican candidate forum in March.
The EPA, man, it just needs to go away. But the EPA has done an incredible job at killing oil and gas, both in water quality and air quality regulations.
Ultimately, she said Congress needs to rein in the EPA, which she could try to do as a congresswoman. Congress writes laws. The EPA implements those laws.
Kirkmeyer even backs a national abortion ban. No exceptions.
This was true until most recently, when she started talking about one exception.
I'm pro-life. And I always have been.
She told Steve Steger last month she supports an exception if a mother's life is at risk. But in that 2020 questionnaire, which asked under what circumstances should abortion be allowed, Kirkmeyer wrote, I don't believe in abortion. When she ran for Congress in 2014, she was even more specific on the topic of exceptions.
I don't agree to any exceptions to abortion.
I reached out to Kirkmeyer's campaign today to get a sense of what happened between 2020 and today that has her saying she opposes abortion with one exception, the life of the mother. Her campaign manager emailed me back saying she's always supported an exception when the life of the mother is at stake. That would rewrite the history of what you just saw. Now, politicians can change their mind, Steve. I just wanted to be able to tell you what changed her mind, not the position they'd rather you know about today.
Right. And while we're talking about rewriting history, we've got to remember that part of that report that we did about Barb Kirkmeyer was, at the time, she had taken that abortion stance off of her website as part of a national trend of a lot of people who are Republicans running for office taking that off their website.
And doing that isn't even necessarily changing a position. It's just not reflecting that position or putting it front and center, because that's not the message you want the voters to know now. It is when you were running in the primary, but not in the general. But when you suddenly start saying something else, I'd like to know why. One note. This ad will be running in, I think, the last commercial break. So just know we've covered it, and you're going to see it in about, 13 minutes.
Now you got the context. Marshall, he always gives it to you. Thank you. Well, this week, you got the chance to help teachers and students in rural schools to give them the same opportunities as kids in larger schools. Kyle joins us from the road with an update on this week's Word of Thanks.
This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is supporting schools and school teachers in rural Colorado. So far, you've raised more than $20,000 for what the Nathan Yip Foundation brings to these schools. It's grants so that teachers can do things in the classroom that otherwise wouldn't be possible without your support. This nonprofit helped to get an auto program started, an auto repair program in Peyton, Colorado. This coming year, there's a teacher in Bennett who wants to start a program teaching kids how to prepare for careers as firefighters. Out in Joe's, there's an art teacher who needs to replace an old kiln before her students lose the ability to do ceramics, their favorite thing in class. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to join me and a bunch of Next viewers as we spread the love all over rural parts of Colorado, helping out with individual projects that otherwise schools and teachers couldn't pull off on their own.
Environmental issues hit close to home for moms fighting to make their community safer and cleaner.
We are regular community members that just want to know, what are we breathing?
They're speaking up to protect their loved ones. Cities can make money off of our vices like booze and pot, but when it comes to betting on our hometown teams, it's a different story. And the end of growing season spells good news for farm workers in Palisade. Next. A coalition of moms have had enough. People they love are getting sick, and they know that the air they breathe and the water they drink are not healthy for them or for their families. Anusha Roy takes a look at how this coalition is changing how environmental justice is addressed.
After growing up in Elaria, Swansea,
I grew up
and
here.
staying close by next to Suncor,
It's my neighbor.
Lucy Molina, a community organizer, has seen too much.
Bloody noses, the headache.
As a mother, she fights for her children, and that means fighting environmental racism.
Uncomfortable for me to see a lot of my white counterparts coming to my community to let me know that I was getting poisoned. My response is like, you think we don't know that? Two things that are missing in these communities, in low-income communities, in our brown and black communities, is lack of representation and proper funding.
That's where a coalition of groups, including Eco Madres, have been changing how things work.
Bridging communities together to really support air quality monitoring.
Together, they organize workshops in English and Spanish, teach people how to reach out to elected officials and advocate for themselves.
Entonces tenemos que educarnos y involucrarnos. So therefore, we need to educate ourselves and become aware and get involved.
The state identified Adams, Pueblo, and Otero counties with the worst pollution and climate change impacts. It's a mix of Superfund sites, water pollution, air pollution from highways and industrial sources. All three counties have high percentages of people of color and people who identify as Latino.
Definitely do see a correlation between areas that have greater environmental health risks and areas where more folks experience those adverse medical outcomes.
So the state launched EnviroScreen, in part to get better data on how often people are falling sick and where. Molina said that she's seeing more aggressive legislation and more success in getting elected officials' attention.
Tenemos que usar nuestra voz para proteger a nuestras familias. We need to use our voice to protect our families.
So it can be really hard to make that direct link between pollution and air quality and how sick someone is getting. So the state is really hoping that EnviroScreen is going to give them better data so they know how to spend their money the right way, where to focus their studies. They also just launched a new plan, Steve, on how to reach communities that are disproportionately impacted by all of these issues. That is something that you can weigh in on until November 22nd, and they're hoping to hear from more people over the next month or two.
You know, I can't think about this stuff without thinking about how dense it is. Like, sometimes I need an expert to explain it all to me so that I can explain it plainly. I can't imagine how tough it is to get the message across.
Yeah, you know, we asked Suncor and CDPHE, like, what are you doing about your messaging to the community? You know, they have information available in multiple languages, in English and Spanish, but the moms who I talked to said it is so important to say it in a way that you can understand it without being an expert. Otherwise, it's going over people's head. They don't know what's happening in their neighborhoods, and then they miss out on an opportunity to advocate for themselves. CDPHE said that's something that they're very conscious of doing right now and changing the way that they're communicating with people, because it is really complicated.
Yeah, and I think we all can agree that moms can be the best explainers.
Yes.
Anusha Roy, thank you. Our next question tonight is about sports gambling. Ted wanted to know if Denver gets some of the money from sports betting at Empower Field. That is a good question, Ted. We should clarify something first. Technically, there is no sports betting at Mile High. The stadium has set up 2 sports betting lounges where people can place bets on their phone through an app, but they can't just go up to a counter and make a bet like you'd see in Black Hawk, Central City, or even Las Vegas. One lounge is located inside the stadium. The other is in the north parking lot. So let's get back to Ted's question now. Does Denver get some of the money from sports gambling? The short answer is no. Colorado only has one licensing authority for legal gambling, and that's through the Division of Gaming. So taxes collected from sports betting go to the state. That's different than liquor and marijuana, which both have state and local licensing, meaning cities and state get that revenue. We always love answering your questions, so if you've got something you want an answer to, send your question our way. Email next@9news.com or use the hashtag HeyNext.
Well,
Well, we're seeing those temperatures warm up from the last couple of days. Right now in downtown Denver, we're at 80 degrees, or at DIA. We have a live look over downtown Denver where the sun is starting to set off in the background there. Calm winds coming in from the north at around 6 miles per hour. And then you can see here temperatures all across the Front Range and Eastern Plains, mostly in the upper 70s to lower 80s, 50s and 60s in the high country, 76 out west in Grand Junction. We're about 20 degrees warmer than we were just this time yesterday. Colorado Springs is seeing a 30-degree temperature difference, so we're definitely see warmer air moving back into the area after a chilly past couple of days. A very quiet HD Doppler radar, and it's going to stay that way for a while because we have a lot of clear skies ahead of us. Tonight will be clear with those lows near 49 degrees. The next couple of days we continue to see sunny skies, temperatures either in the lower 80s to upper 70s.
We head west for a dose of good news as the end of one season signals a long-awaited return home.
Me emociona ir para allá y estar con ellos, con mi esposa y mi hijo.
Every week we ask the same question, but this week the answer sounds a lot different. In honor of Hispanic Heritage Month, our Ann Herbst went to Rancho Duranzo fruit farm in Palisade to ask agricultural workers our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
Sometimes good news comes with a little bit of bad. When almost all of the Palisade peaches are picked, it signals the end of summer, almost as much as a calendar date. The end of one thing leads to the best thing for many farm workers in Colorado.
Me siento contento de que se haya terminado la fruta.
Luis has been away from family in Mexico for the better part of a year.
Febrero, marzo, abril, mayo, junio, julio, agosto, septiembre. Vamos a cumplir en octubre son 9 meses.
It's about time to go home.
El contrato se vence el 30 de octubre. O igual me emociona ir para allá y estar con ellos, con mi esposa y mi hijo.
His father-in-law, Adolfo, is just as excited.
Es una fiesta cuando llegamos nosotros. Es muy emocionante. Compras cositas para llevar a la familia, unos tenis o cualquier regalito, un reloj, lo que sea. Eso es lo que tengo yo, que tengo muchos sobrinos. Somos una familia muy grande. Y ya cuando menos a cada quien una chanclita o algo. Ahí van todos los tíos y tíos, aunque es y en la mañana estaba arreglando la maleta y ya se siente ya la emoción así de estar esperando ese día.
They're here for us.
Y aquí al terminar sabemos que toda esa fruta llegó a manos de otras personas que lo pudieron degustar.
But really, they're here for the ones they leave behind. So yeah, while this might be a sad goodbye to summer for some, it's the happiest hello for so many others.
Estar con ellos es lo más favorito para mí. No precisamente un lugar, pero estar con ellos es lo mejor.
For next, this is Ann Herbst.
Our thanks to the amazing people at Rancho Duranzo. Your feedback, including what I'm full of, is next. Finish with your feedback now. Carolyn writes, tell us, all capital letters, give us a report, 2 exclamation points. How is the gal hit by the train doing, all capital letters? Well, she has 9 broken ribs, broken sternum. She has injuries to her legs, to her head. She's expected to survive. And from the text line tonight, you are so full of blank.